All right, good morning and welcome to our channel. Today, we're going to discuss a little bit of news about Section 8 housing and programs and the government shutdown. This video would be most appropriate for those of you that participate in federal housing programs, vouchers, subsidies, and so on. This video would not be appropriate for those who do not like that subject matter. And though we are talking about the government shutdown, it will be related to that. So, first thing on the list is the government shutdown certainly did shut down HUD. And to help you better understand what that means, when you close HUD as a federal agency, housing authorities, better known as PHAs or public housing authorities, most of the paperwork that you guys are required to fill out and give to the public housing authority, many of them seek the approval of HUD. In other words, things like portability, being able to actually get the voucher, extensions, accommodations, and so on. All these things have to be filed and approved with HUD. So when we have a circumstance when you have a government shutdown and shutting down HUD, and they have not even figured out what essential employees are supposed to be operating in HUD, then it's a complete shutdown. And so many housing authorities are forced in the position of simply doing what they do best when they don't know what to do, and that would be closing down until they have at least a determination on what's being considered essential. To give you a little bit of background, I believe before the government shutdown, we already had a loss of funding in terms of housing, Section 8, and vouchers. And that also included a subgroup, including those that would be homeless, domestic violence, and other issues. Now, during that process, they chose to eliminate roughly up to 90% of HUD staff, leaving us roughly 10%. That 10% at current with the shutdown means that not only do we not have the essential people that are there, we have nobody at the moment. And so it forces housing authorities to close. Many housing authorities do not take the operable position that you might imagine. They just like normal people, get fearful of circumstance, politics, and the general circumstances. The general circumstances right now across the nation is a certain level of fear. You don't know what's going to happen day to day, and that's, to be frank with you, big changes come with big decisions, and sometimes the general public's not part of that. Sometimes even the housing authorities are falling to that. Looking at the circumstances currently, unless housing authorities are directly contacting the local housing authority and HUD, then many of them are reacting in fear. In other words, they're closing or they're stopping. They're no longer funding the vouchers, no longer answering their phones because they feel that their hands are tied in the circumstance. So in my opinion, in my professional opinion, doing this 26 years and being the owner of Section 8 Consulting, being a federal consultant, we are definitely living in some of the toughest times in the country when it comes to housing. Yes, the government shutdown is what it is, and it certainly has handcuffed HUD's ability to be able to approve or deny applications for those that need certain aspects of HUD. Okay. Also, I'm going to do a quick shout out to a few of you I see commenting below. Keep in mind, this is my first live video in weeks, maybe a month. So I'm going to stumble a little bit in the video. It's not going to be like my old ones where it's usually fiery and filled with spicy comments, but I'm doing my best here to remember what it was like to make live videos again. All right, Mina, good morning, and thank you for joining the channel. Sheila Neal, good morning to all, and good morning to you. Sheila Marie, we got a lot of Sheilas today. That's good news. Linda Veal, I believe. It says hi to everyone. Angelita Matos. If I get your name wrong, don't take it too badly. I'm not good with names. Silver Fox, good morning. Thank you for everything. My son's mother, good morning. And so good morning to everybody. I'm glad the few of you have shown up. Hopefully we start generating some larger audiences again in our live views. Look, guys, this is also a live video. I don't know if you're on your TV, your phone, or so on. If you got questions or comments about anything related to the topics we're talking about, I'm happy to answer it. But if you're going to ask me to resolve your case and help you get a voucher inside of a public video, it's probably unlikely, okay? A lot of people choose to just contact our office. One thing I'm going to do today is I'd like to solve a problem we've been having. I'm going to post linkage real quick to our company reviews. It came to my attention that a few nefarious persons decided they wanted to launch a campaign on, I believe, the Better Business Bureau. You remember those back in Grandma's day when you were mad, you went to the Better Business Bureau? Well, apparently a few people, 3 or 4 comments have landed there. And some people believe that's the only reputation that our company has. So what I'm going to do is post our company reviews, about 400 or 500 of them, and make them available to the public. Because in the end, I don't care either way. I'm due to retire in a couple of years, so it makes a little difference to me what people put as reviews. But I'm going to post them here and let you guys be the good judge of that. All right. Let's see if I can get it in there. There we go. So I managed to get that up. Good news. All right. So now we're kind of keenly aware of what happens when Section 8 and HUD, when HUD's not open, that it makes it rather impossible for the system to move, right? So you guys are trying to get housing and vouchers and subsidies, and you're unable to basically get HUD to accept that documentation because they're closed. Now, I believe next couple of weeks that they will likely open up a little bit, so we're able to get at least the essential employees into HUD, which will allow us a small amount of flow there. Another thing that's important to understand is if the past history indicates the future, then I would say to you that in 2018, President Trump, during that term, he ended up having, I think it was about 30 days or more. They had to shut down. So I think that all of our expectations should be sometime in between now and 30 days. The shutdown might end. I believe it was 31 days or 32 days the last shutdown happened. That's when both parties could agree. So I think that it would be, in good mind and in good thought to try to imagine it might have lasted that long. Of course, we'd all want it to end early because it means that we can move on. But I got to be honest with you, 2026 has certainly been the most difficult year, 2025. So I'm looking forward to 2026, hoping that we get a better circumstance. I'm going to jump back in here and take a look at the comments. Dundee 777, good morning. And he or she goes on to say, I have a voucher out through my state. I think that will be affected. To be honest with you, I don't deal with state level vouchers, but since states use taxpayer money locally, I don't think that any action on the federal government's part is going to affect that, okay? Ron S. says, thank you for keeping us informed. Double C says 35. And Starlight Angel, I like that name a lot. Hello, what is your utility allowance? That can be a complex conversation, Starlight. I'd say reach out to my office. Utility allowances on average, and they can average differently all over the country. I mean, there are thousands, if not tens of thousands of zip codes, but utility allowance is usually around $80. It's not much, okay? It's a negligible amount. So moving back, we talked about government shutting down, how that's affected, and then now we're going to talk a little bit about immigration, okay? I know this is a sensitive topic, so if what I say upsets you in any way, try not to make this personal, okay? It's reasonable to give balanced reporting. That's part of my job. If at my office I instructed all my employees to only service Democrats or only service Republicans, we'd be in trouble. And so some topics, some days are going to fall more in one way or another. That's just life, okay? And blaming me in some way or another through the comment section isn't going to help anybody, okay? Though if you need to vent frustration somehow, I suppose, I don't mind being a good target. At least I'm not that mobile. All right. So at present, I think that the government shutdown will last through possibly the 30 days. We are facing a new change inside of emergency housing vouchers in that system. The 2025 approval has never been, nobody's ever actually approved that. So I think that with homeless funding, we're going to be in trouble for 2026. They're talking about using COC funding. And for those that don't know, there are two avenues with federal funding. The first is when you have funding that comes from the federal government and they're using that for the COC programs. And then they have COC funding that comes through both state level. Okay. And so what they're talking about is reducing that funding from 70% down to 30. And so when you reduce that much of funding inside the homeless system, when it's not even, the budget's not been approved, it means that virtually nobody that faces homelessness, domestic violence, or other related issues to that type of funding would be able to utilize the system. Okay. At least not for 2025 or 2026. Okay. So we're looking kind of closely at what can be done. I got to tell you guys, it's rather annoying in this video that I have the camera right here in front of my face. You guys can't see it, but it's, it's kind of annoying for me. I wish I could find a way to fix that, but I can't. Moving back to comments down here. Will they give out Section 8 vouchers anytime? The whole system, as far as I know, is closed for business. But, with every big reaction in the market like this, government shutdowns or not, one thing we're expecting is a lot of this immigration issues we're having and how that's being dealt with is going to have a major impact going forward. At the current pace, this country is ejecting people, virtually every color, every race. At the pace we're going in 2026, just by the sheer number of people we're ejecting out of the country that are utilizing housing or vouchers, it's likely to free up millions, if not tens of millions of spaces. Now, in a more sensitive market, let's say this, just in the past 24 to 48 hours, there have been large discussions in deportation of legal immigrants. And let me clarify what that means. We're talking about 300,000 Venezuelans that somehow have been able to be approved to be in the U.S. Okay, they're legally here. The administration wants to reverse that decision and then eject them out of the country. So that's 300,000. That's only one subgroup. There have been many, as we know right now. There's a firestorm of things happening throughout Chicago and many cities. It's been almost a declaration of war in many of our major cities, many of which have been key termed or been called cities that are sanctuary cities and so on. One thing we need to remember about American history is this whole country, except for its Indians, were somewhere else. We have to draw a line somewhere. Otherwise, even Donald Trump and his wife would be kicked out of the country. I understand the premise of what's going on, but we as a country are competing against other countries like China and India, which have twice our population. And so I think that we should probably slow down at some point and not kick so many people out. I think that it's going to create a problem in the future, but it's also, in retrospect, going to create a lot of space for American citizens that are American or have been here, at least on the criteria that are granted by the U.S. Congress, to be here. And this will free up all the houses. If we have 300,000 Venezuelans in the country legally, and then we reject that and then send them back, then that means likely there's 300 houses or other living circumstances that will be freed. Now, as many have commented, just because somebody through immigration is legally here doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be able to remain here. So it's a tough topic, but I believe that the year 26, 27, and 28, they will probably continue these immigration raids throughout the cities, and we'll see more and more people that were legally here also have their status rejected that way. And the reason for that conversation is, for those of you that are American citizens looking for housing and vouchers, this is going to free up a lot of space. Now, another thing that we need to talk about that's serious are serious changes, okay? Back before October, I told you that there's what they call reconciliation. This reconciliation directly addresses whether or not Congress is going to approve term limits on vouchers. If you're not 62 years and older, as considered a senior, and you cannot prove that you have a disability that affects your quality of life, then effectively you have a 2-year limit on that voucher. Okay, that affects all Americans. So that will, out of 2.3 million homeless, over 1 million homeless people will lose their voucher within 2 years. And then, of course, the numbers become a little bit more astronomical as we look at people that aren't even homeless. In addition to that, just like food stamps, they will implement work requirements. So you may have 20 or 30-hour work weeks. So in lieu of a term limit, a work requirement, and then they may also put additional pressures in there. I want to be clear that the U.S. government has spoke very loudly in terms of anybody having a voucher, using that voucher to purchase or rent a home, and then you allow anybody that is not legally in the U.S. to visit, live in, or otherwise a U.S. house, you'll be ejected from the system and possibly face deportation along with other civil or criminal penalties. Okay, they do not want anybody that's not legally in the country to be renting any home, to house anybody in your house. The issue is not whether or not people are getting whether they're illegally getting vouchers. That's not the issue. It's about people that are legally here allowing people that are illegal to live in their home. Okay, that doesn't require anybody's approval. It means that you're complicit in allowing this behavior to go on despite federal rules. Okay, so while that may not be fun and it may not be ideal to anybody's concept, we need to be careful with that. Okay, so let's go back to comments here. I see there are a lot. Let's hope y'all haven't shredded me in the comments section, but I won't cry if you do. And I'm not going to catch all comments, guys. There's a lot here. Let's see. Sheila Neal goes on, since the government shut down, Miami Housing Authority still open. Well, housing authorities can be open and closed. We don't really know what they're doing. We just know that in order for anybody to process an application or to accept or deny that application, it's got to be filed with HUD. So regardless of the housing authorities pretending to be open or not, there's no action they can take unless HUD is open. And HUD is supposed to keep essential staff, but they haven't even determined that yet. So it's likely going to be far into the month before housing authorities. As an example, I scan every day through Google, okay? And I use Google because it does a better job than most search engines. Right now, I've not been able to find less than a handful of housing authorities that are open in America. And that's a pretty interesting fact, considered that you can look it up for the news part of Google News, or you can look it up just through the regular search engine. But the interesting thing is that's only less than a handful of 4,200 housing authorities. And what's open out there is actually not vouchers. It's housing authorities trying to backfill properties they own, project-based. In fact, out of maybe 5 to 6 places that are open at any given time these days, almost all of it is project-based. Okay, they may not put the words on it, but that's what it is. I mean, somebody's moved out and moved on, or maybe they've quit or get kicked out. Who knows? So moving on from there, Tim Baylor says, how is Seattle figuring into this shutdown? I think that all cities in America are figuring about the same way. Until HUD opens to be able to review paperwork and file it with HUD, then all this is at a standstill. Anybody's welcome to disagree with my opinion there, but I'm pretty sure we can all reason that HUD is not open. And we can all, with a quick search, figure out that they have not determined essential employees. So the doors are closed on that right now. And just because something reopens, which we will face that soon, things will reopen. HUD will reopen, federal funds, so on. It doesn't mean that we're going to reopen and instantly be operable either. So I think right now, the important thing is not to panic in the situation, to use our time wisely. For many of you, you may be out there seeking a voucher, and right now you've got this roadblock. Well, it doesn't mean you should drop everything you're doing and just quit. This is a temporary action. Everybody's going to be patient. I've got several cases. Well, I shouldn't even say several. All my cases are pending. I can't do anything until the government does. In the end, the U.S. government determines who's going to do what, in terms of getting housing vouchers and so on. All right, moving on to another comment. Sheila Marie, Jay, I'm upset because I am in deep blue sanctuary state. Well, why are you there if it's upsetting you so bad? Move to a deep red state if that's what's bothering you. Or pick any other color in the book, maybe a green state. Of course, I'm just joking with you, but where the illegals have all the vouchers and no housing available, well, that's a problem most of the country has. I don't think it's exclusive to you, Sheila, and I'm not trying to undermine your comment, okay? But I think that's a problem everywhere right now. Nobody's got housing. This, like I said, this is one of the toughest markets I've ever seen in my career. If I had to look back at all of HUD's career in Section 8, I would say that 2025 is the worst year ever. I can't think of any other year it was worse. Not even the housing crisis, not even the financial crash. None of that compares to this year because it's such a salty mix of politics, shutdowns, lack of funding, bickering politicians have made this into just one big old shitty mess, and it does serve parties. It does serve one party or the other pretty evenly, but the end is when nobody gets anything, nobody gets anything. What was the purpose of that? That's the problem with driving something too far. After a while, you've got nothing. All your efforts are just discounted. So, all right, moving back to comment section here. Silver Fox, but not 100%. I think you have let them know that it can be transferred to Tennessee. Portability must be approved by HUD. We keep going back to the same thing, guys. You cannot reinvent the wheel here. If HUD does not receive the paperwork and file it and approve it, it don't work, okay? You can spend any way you want. You can file all the portability requests you want, and it's just going to land in an empty mailbox, okay? Reese, we'll just call you Reese boy. Hopefully you're not a girl. Gotcha, he says. They all need to go. So let's go back to immigration again, okay? Sometimes I like to throw a little gasoline in the gumbo pot. Look, undoubtedly, the biggest effect that most of you are going to see in 2026 is with the exit of so many people in the country, whether they're here illegally or whether they're here legally, but then they have reversed their decision. We're probably going to lose a massive chunk of people that's going to free up a lot of housing. Okay, let's just be honest. That's what all this does. I believe the Trump administration, President Trump, his plan here is, if I'm going to defund the program, let's create additional space. So he has a reason to defund. Okay, so if we're spending $48 billion or $1 trillion on programs, the easiest way for him to lower costs would be to get rid of what he fundamentally sees as a problem tying it up. So to cut that budget in half, we got to find a way to free up all that additional space. And there's three ways to do that: immigrants, term limits, and work requirements. Because a lot of people have vouchers and housing that are disabled, seniors, and so on, that probably deserve to have that because they're U.S. taxpayers. And there are many more that simply don't want to work. So these three actions will probably free up roughly half the system. And let me tell you something, guys. A lot of you think just because half of the people go and we get half the funding, you think that wait lists will be half as quick. That's not true. The more people you remove from the system, the higher number of people will be able to get vouchers, actually. So it won't just chop the waiting list in half. It'll actually make it 75% quicker, okay? The numbers are much quicker on the low end than they are on the top end, okay? So I think in 2026, if we can get all these things rolled out, and that includes the funding cut, freeing up the general housing market, and also freeing up vouchers, you're going to see probably half the market disappear. And when I mean market, I mean the Section 8 housing voucher and subsidy market. Roughly half the people will dissipate in the first 2 years, okay? And with the immigration status, the challenge to use those vouchers and rent, you're probably going to see a massive reduction, around 50 or 60%. So not only will it become eaten, it's two different things here. One is getting the voucher, and the other is renting with the voucher. Both markets are going to get easier with reduction in rules. And so you're going to see the beginning effect. Now, this is not a tidal wave. We're not going to pop the champagne and party balloons. I can now get a voucher, in 3 months. What you're going to see is a slow rolling effect. It'll start to increase because as the rules apply more pressure to people that are in the system, and less people want to follow those rules, then it's going to ramp up the number of people that are going to be ejecting out of the system. And that's going to allow many of you that actually qualify, and it's a necessity for you to have the get. So by the end of 2 years, you're going to see the greatest effect then. Starting out, people will be willing to fight until they get tired of the rules. And so we're not going to see the truest part of the effect until almost we get till 2 more years, which is still 1 year within the Trump administration. And if they continue the nationwide raids, which from my view, President Trump is very intent on hitting all top 50 cities. And he seems he's got a practice role in this at this point. In other words, he tested a few cities. They're looking at proof of concept. In other words, they figured out how to pretty much crush legal challenges to this. They're getting better at it each week by week. They're getting better at it. That means that more and more cities will have the National Guard, military, and all federal agencies ramping up business for immigration in virtually every major city, at least the top 50. At present, under consideration, they're at 13. They don't have far to go. Mr. Trump has another 3 years to go. By then, he'll probably have hit around 50 cities. And though the numbers don't seem that big per city, when you add up the ultimate numbers, and that isn't including the fact that when he's tired of dealing with illegal, he's looking at people that are legally here and then revoking that as well. So many of you that come here under war acts and different things, like the Russians, the Ukrainians, people from Africa, parts of South America, your legal statuses are being denied and you're being put out the country. That goes into millions more. And so when you remove all these people from the housing market, it means we now have places to rent. You know, that's been a big problem. And I think that both parties misjudged all of this because nobody could have known that it would create such a big problem because it happened incrementally. It happened over many, both Republican and Democratic presidents. But the problem was incremental. We thought we could take more. We kept taking more. And it builds up till you hit a housing crisis. Okay. And when you hit a housing crisis, then you start to see the real challenge there. And so that's the big issue here. When things get this bad, when we're having to kick in higher interest rates from the feds, we're having government shutdowns, we're having a failure of government. We've got astronomical rents. Then we have to question, who should remain in the country? Who should benefit largely from what the United States has to offer? Its citizens should always play number one. And for those of you who have hard fought to become an American citizen, kudos to you. You earned that right, okay? If it gets removed, then look, being an American is a privilege, okay? That's the first thing people need to remember. It's just like driving on the highway. It is a privilege. It cannot be stolen or ripped off, okay? You cannot lie or cheat and steal your way to American citizenship. There's no guarantee of it either, okay? We may guarantee you to get here and then you become an American citizen, and then we decide later that it's not economically advisable anymore, and you may have to go, okay? That's just reality. The United States makes its rules, and when it decides it's not favorable, then people have to go, and that's an unfortunate, and we're not the only country that does this. The good news is North Korea and Cuba, always looking for new people. You can always sign up for immigration there. They're always looking for new people. All right. They're not great options, but they're looking for people to move there. It doesn't have to be America. There are lots of vacation packages in North Korea, Cuba, and other places. It's a little tougher there, but hey, they'll help you out. You don't have to come here. Moving on from there. Let's see. Vaughn B. I'm a senior moving to Tennessee in 45 days. How do I apply for the 2026 voucher program? Well, you'll want to start applying in 2026 is the first thing. The second thing, and not to be, I don't want to be a jackass, okay? You want to start working on that in 2026. There's nothing that I can advise you on that right now, okay? I would say reach out to my housing if you're looking for a game plan to prepare for 2026, because that's, you're asking a large question. Even my Albas, we work with clients 6 months up to a year to help them with that. There's no way that I can answer that for you, Vaughn, quickly and easily. There's not a quick tip or trick I can give you. As a consultant at the federal level, you're asking. There's a lot of unknowns, and I don't even know anything about your case. So, moving on there, Sheila Marie J. I'm upset because I'm in a deep. Okay, We read that one. I believe Silver Fox was on a comment. Oh, we all need to go. All right. Reese says we all need to go. Well, that's bad news. Christine Gannon, are you right-handed or left-handed? Now, I feel like that's a loaded question. But that's okay if you want to take a shot across the bow of my boat. I know where you're going with that. Am I right or left-handed? But that's all right. If you're not, then maybe I'm just paranoid. Baby Doll Kincaid, I like that. That's an excellent name. Is the housing authority open in Chicago? Look, guys, y'all are badgering me with this. This is a government shutdown. There's nothing happening. The only thing you're going to do is drive your car to is a garage sale right now. There's no, I mean, the housing authority is on. Do you think, yeah, they're open, but do you think those people, just like the pandemic, this is the perfect excuse for these people to do further less? Okay, you call the housing authority. Yeah, they got an open waiting list. But look, they threw the telephone in the dumpster about a week ago. They're not interested in hearing from you. Okay? You can fill out all the blank applications you want. These people are probably sipping on whiskey and watching Netflix at the housing authority. They ain't got to do anything and probably won't. It would be even better for them that this stuff right all the way to the holidays, because when we get near Thanksgiving and Christmas, these people quit working altogether. It's like Goodwill in there. These people don't do shit at the housing authority. That's all the excuse they need. Somebody say, holiday shit, close the building. Hurry. And they tell Nancy, twist the blinds. Don't let nobody look in the window. If you hear somebody knock, get behind your desk. I'm just telling you. I've dealt with housing authorities for almost 26 years. There's some of them that are good, but they're mostly, you'd be better going to a hooker convention than dealing with housing authority employees. Most of these operations are Mickey Mouse. They violate people's rights. I've probably been in court about 19 times on the behalf of law firms just to testify against housing authorities and the shit they put people through. So if you're asking me whether they're open, well, no, probably not. And even if they are, they probably tell you something that isn't completely wildly untrue and then hang up on you. Okay, we're not talking about people with a PhD, okay? Anytime you don't believe me, go down to the housing authority and see if they're having prayer circles. You'll learn real quick. All right. XGBT, typo J. That's all right. I'm full of typos. Deborah, if the government can't shut down like that, then why do we still have to pay taxes? Well, you want to pay taxes because if you don't pay taxes, not only can you won't get Section 8, you'll get Section 9. Section 9 is 3 hots and a cot in a federal prison. Okay. You give you a lease. Those leases can run up to 30 years, a lifetime. The lease doesn't give keys. It's got excellent medical care if you live through it. It's just not a very good deal. So I pay taxes so you can get Section 8 because Section 9 isn't so good. If you're wondering, that's 3 hots and a cot in a federal prison. Yeah. So the feds will provide housing free of cost and rent. It's full welfare system. You get free food. Everything's there. I don't want that for you. Pay your taxes, man. Don't do like the people that come in the country that don't come here legally. Okay, I don't want you working in the Home Depot parking lot just so you can avoid paying taxes. All right, don't do that. That's not American. If you want to be a true-blooded American, you first must let the government rape you of all your money, and then when you get old, you're going to call a line, you're going to call the hotline, and they're going to hang up on your ass. Welcome to America. It's a tough place to live. You're not guaranteed anything, and not including government shutdowns. Now, I meant that comically, guys. Don't go off the deep end. Don't become extremists. Please, no death threats. Sometimes we got to spice it up a bit. Let's not go home and talk badly about me. All right, Hampton. All right, Deborah. Says, why can't we just say we shut down like the government did? Well, I suppose you could, but look, you don't want any new government jewelry. That does handcuffs don't look so good, man. That's a terrible way to get a bus pass. Okay, that old chain bus down to the prison. I'm telling you, you'll be incentivized. You'll change your mind. Christine Gannon, because sometimes the camera is backwards. Look, guys, y'all lucky that I even have a camera. I could be doing this with a Canon string. Okay, I'm a consultant. I don't pour my time, my money, and effort into making videos. I try to educate you guys. So if you're hoping for, that my I got lots of hairspray, lipstick, and you look, I take a shave because I'm here to teach. I'm not here to entertain. Sometimes I report the news. Sometimes I just report what's going on. But I mean, the reality of it is I'm not trying to be a YouTube star. I don't get paid shit for this stuff. I'd be better off working in the Home Depot parking lot than I would be making videos, okay? Nobody cares about Section 8 videos. Trust me. I've been doing this 15 years, over 1,000 videos. I still can't purchase a riding lawnmower in what I've made. So trust me. I'm here because I love you guys and want to educate you. But mostly, it's not for YouTube. So if my 1962 camera and my Canon string don't get it, then hey, don't make me talk bad. All right. So Harpo says those who can do, those that can't teach, those who can even teach and work for the government. I like the way you put that. It took me a while to think about that and understand what that meant. But Carnage Clips, I like that. Anything permanent supportive housing. So let's talk about the changes to permanent supportive housing. But first, I got to teach you a little bit before we talk about PSH. All right. So homeless housing runs under a program called Continuum of Care. And that's what we call COE, or coordinated entry. That addresses people with receiving a voucher for rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing, and emergency housing voucher. The new government rules that are supposed to roll out say that they're going to define that by half, and they're only allowed. They were allowed 70% of the funding to issue vouchers. Now they'll only be allowed 30%. In other words, the Trump administration doesn't like that program. If it probably were up to them, they would just get rid of it altogether. But since they can't get rid of it altogether, they'll make it almost useless. I didn't make that decision. Remember that, guys, when y'all use profanities to talk about me, I'm not the one that made that decision, okay? Y'all mistaken this. I'm the middleman, okay? Please file your death threats with the White House, not me, or even the Supreme Court. Don't come to me about that. I can't pick shit for you. Stephanie, good morning. Hampton, you are so funny. I try to be. Look, when shit goes this terribly wrong, what else could you possibly be? I could be upset, or we could joke a bit about it. I know it's no laughing matter, but I mean, when things get this crazy, what am I supposed to say? The effect of the Trump administration, the work that he's doing to reduce and all these big changes, of course, nobody likes changes, okay? But I believe there's a benefit to it. There's definitely a benefit to it. It's going to reduce the number of people that saturate U.S. housing. It's going to reduce the number of people that have generational vouchers. A lot of you guys have commented, even those that have vouchers, about, oh, well, look, I've seen Lucy and Dan. Dan's out there on 3rd Street turning tricks, and this bastard's using a voucher. Hey, there you go. We're getting rid of useless people out of the system, and we're trying to get it more designated for what was intended for, people that have no other option for housing. And sometimes the efforts leading up to getting there are pretty tough. It affects us. It affects everybody. Look, it's constructively even affected my office, the way we look at things as well. You don't think I don't get circus clowns all the time calling my office. They love for me to engage in a conversation to help them defraud the U.S. government of a voucher, simply because they have no aspiration in life and cannot be bothered to sweat one teardrop at the McDonald's. It'd be easier to collect all the big bonuses, go get them a food stamp card, a voucher, a welfare check, and then who knows, maybe a crack pipe. But that's not most people. Most people that are out here need this, okay? And they have so much trouble getting it because there's too many people sucking up housing. And these aren't even Americans. So, that's the way it goes. I'm compassionate about people, and I'm very passionate about people that suffer in other countries. But look, America's not a soup kitchen. Okay? We're also not the only country. Look, guys, you could go and bother Britain, Europe, France, Australia. They're taking people, but they put you on an island. Okay? We're doing is catching up with every other country. That's all we're doing. Do you think they put up with this shit over there in Europe? They'll put your ass out of the country. Australians say, hey, we'll put them on an island in tents until we make them so miserable they just leave. Okay? All Trump was doing was matching the plot and the course of that one. Yet it hurts that we can't, but we spent 100 years trying to help people, 300 flooding people in from everywhere. At some point, we have to call it a day. Okay, we can't. We're reaching a critical state in our country where we either service our people or we service the world, and to service the world is an expensive bill. This is how this country got in all this debt. 20-year wars back to back to back. Okay, now you go down in Los Angeles, Florida, Houston, whatever, half the housing is tied up with people that weren't even born here. And then the rents are through the roof. I think the corporations should be also, there need to be some mandates about that, man. How does Google, Apple, and Amazon make $20 trillion, but yet they pay 1% in tax? I like to see a president have the balls to take those guys on. Quit sending money to Ireland, hiding your corporations in Ireland and tax-free places, and then they benefit from you guys buying on Amazon, Apple, and all that, and then they don't pay any taxes in. So we can solve our national debt by forcing the top 10 companies to stop trying to put their companies in other countries. Okay? Ireland's a little country, but they're hosting half the corporations. They've got trillions of dollars in that little Irish town. Okay, so listen, we're going to have brass balls. Then, hey, Donald Trump, I implore you, look at these big corporations. It's time for a shakedown. Seriously, you don't move your shit to this island we call America, then forget it. Tax their ass the same way you do middle America. And I employ every U.S. president, not just Trump, but anyone going forward. We need to take some action against that shit. There also are driving force in places like California where corporations are buying whole counties, putting and paying their employees $200,000-$300,000, and then all the poor people left outside the zip code can't even fucking afford a shack, a cardboard box. There need to be regulation over that as well, because these corporations are artificially driving rent. California used to be affordable, but all the corporations went there for tax breaks, and now only the wealthy can live there, and even those that have money can barely live there. That's absurd. Anybody want to know how most of the people ended up in California start with? Two reasons. Gold rush, 1851, 1852. That's how half the people got there, through immigration. Number two, military bases. I played a big role in all those people out there. And when things aren't good and we drive everybody out, we allow corporations to buy up millions of acres of land and then drive the market to only the wealthy that work for them be there. That's a problem. A same effect playing out in Florida. We're watching it in Texas too. Look, these companies don't give a shit about anything but making money. Nobody at the church is, we need to focus on that as well, not just immigration. I'm sorry, but the truth is the truth, right? All right, so TrustWorks 101 says you're right. Well, I appreciate that. How long did it take him? Okay. Sheila Marie, that's right. I live in Washington. That's exactly right. Mr. Jay's preaching. Yeah, I get that way sometimes. It only takes about a half a carton of Delight iced coffee. When I overdose on that, then I pop on the camera. I'm like popcorn, So Rhonda says truth. Buzz video. Sheila, exactly. It's pathetic. Come on, guys. Let's be nice to each other. Mama Moonshine, I like that name. Come back and see us for sure. Facts. Don't care about your feelings. Yep, that's true. So look, guys, I hope this administration makes corporations part of this deal. That we enact something. We really want to protect this country. We need to protect ourselves from these corporations. There's no fucking reason for a company like Apple to have $1 trillion. They literally put it in front of our face. They hide their corporation and pay taxes in another nation. They're sitting on a reserve of $500 billion. They literally could burn money the size of a house. It wouldn't even affect not even 0.000. Okay? Is this the country we want? Corporations? Not only that, but you allow these corporations to get too big, eventually they're going to control politics. And then there's going to be Democrats and Republicans on one side, and it's going to be corporations on the other. That'll be the future of things, because they'll have all the money. They'll have more money and lawyers than even the U.S. government. Right now, at the pace that corporations are growing and profiting from us as American people, there'll come a time when they generate more money than the U.S. government. And they're right there. Once they have more money than the government, then, hey, it's only a matter of time, but they can buy entire states and they can control massive. They can control politics, everything. They're almost there, guys, and we all letting it happen. Meanwhile, they ship all their money to a little bitty crack house in Ireland. Nothing against the Irish, okay? I'm trying to make an extreme example. We ship all the money there where they pay 3% tax. They keep a $500 billion reserve and don't pay shit into this country. But they benefit off the back of all you people that are buying every toaster, every subscription. That needs to be addressed. Lobbyists need to be lit on fire. They're allowing this, I know lobbyists. I get lobbyists. I got contacted by one in California the other day. They wanted to weaponize my channel for political reasons. Look, I deal in vouchers, not politics. I'm not going to skew the story. If I tell you it's shitty, it's because I believe it is, not because you paid me to do so. So if you're a lobbyist, don't call my office about that shit anymore. I've had more calls about that. And they pose as all kinds of nefarious little companies hidden behind 3 different LLCs. One company contacted me, man. I was just stunned. And it was all for political agenda. Look, go out and handle your own business. Don't do it on my back. I'm not going to help you. All right, moving on from there. Raiders 7528. I'm disabled. Does my living aid nurse have to live with me? Well, that's strictly up to you. They ain't got to live there. I mean, living aids can be live in or live out. It depends on what's required and what you're comfortable with. So, no, the answer to that would be no. Latoya, I love that name. Mama Moonshine. Okay, so you're commenting on another comment. Monk Lands Outdoor Adventures, correct about the corporations and gentrification in the new range. Quincy Rodney, Truth Works. So the moral of the story, guys, when we look at everything happening here, is Section 8 housing and all programs are pretty much closed until HUD can make a determination on essential staff. The government shutdown needs to first end, and this can last up to a month, and it can last longer. President Trump is a tough-willed man, and he will leverage a shutdown for as long as necessary. Okay? We should expect rolling immigration shakedowns nationwide. When that's fizzled and has reached its ultimate limit, then we should expect those that are legally here to probably have their status rejected, starting with people that came under war crimes. Okay? I know that's a tough position to hold, but look, we're reaching a critical phase in our country, and American citizenship, again, it's a privilege. Privileges can be revoked, okay? Especially in a national crisis. If we can't even keep our government open, then maybe it's time to start looking at some of the bigger issues. We cannot serve everybody. We're not a soup kitchen. I sympathize with everybody, and it's important to remember we're not the only option in the world. There are 154 countries, including Cuba, okay? Including Cuba and North Korea. Always hiring. Always are. You get you a HUD application. They got mining jobs. That's just real. You go down to Mexico. Ain't nobody signing up to go to Mexico. What the hell? All right. So moving on from there. I believe I'll wrap this up. I've had an entertaining time getting back. It took me about 30 minutes to warm up, and I think we've been in this video for about an hour. So in closing, we should expect further reductions in homeless housing, rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing. We should also, the big news, Section 8. Look, this right here, October 1st, and I can't believe I forgot to tell you guys this. This is the reconciliation. When the government, they come to an agreement, we're going to learn whether or not there'll be 2-year term limits and work requirements put on Section 8 vouchers. Okay? So all y'all in a big hurry for this to end, don't be in such a big hurry. This could end up going the way you don't want it to go. We'll get our answer. We were expecting it by October 1st. Now, both sides are fighting over this big time, okay? But this was determination. When you read in the news, you wake up, you put on your house slippers, you throw some hot coffee in your face, and you see the government shutdown's done, you better start Googling real hard about whether or not they put term limit and work requirements. Because if you're not a senior and you're not disabled, that's a game and match. And I don't know if 2-year time they'll let you reapply. It doesn't appear that President Trump wants a revolving door. That could be the beginning of and the end of your Section 8 voucher per this president. And let me be clear about something politically. Yep, Democrats have the options to roll things back. But let me tell you something. No Democratic president is going to get elected back in office if the top of his agenda is, yeah, I'm going to go in and tell the American people that please elect me. I'm going to spend trillions of dollars on Section 8. I'm going to re-roll the programs. Yeah, no Democratic or Republican is going to, Democrat or Republican is going to touch this issue, not now or not the next 10 years, because you won't get elected, okay? Nobody wants it. Okay, so it's easy to get rid of all these programs or even defund them. And somebody having the nerve to actually get elected to reopen all this, nobody's going to want to touch this. Okay, they might increase funding, but HUD will never be as big as it used to be. The funding will never be as big as it used to be. They're not going to. We may get homeless funding back, and that's all contingent of another Democrat taking office. But I mean, what you see, the glory days of Section 8 and HUD, those days have come to pass. No president is going to maintain or even get reelected by trying to make his entire agenda about undoing what Trump's done. Let me tell you, this man works at a maddening pace. He's like 8 presidents all at once. I mean, he takes a building from the top, the 80th floor, and he's got it down to bricks and dust within weeks. Okay, if you don't agree, then he'll send the National Guard, the military, and the feds take over your whole city. Okay, that's the first year this man's been in office. By the time he leaves, and don't think President Trump won't leave on a bang because he's got nothing to lose. Don't think he won't leave on a bang, and when he does, probably all the hair is going to fall out and get blown back because I'm sure he'll take another shot at Section 8. So for me, makes a good time to retire because there won't probably be much of Section 8 left, except for those that are seniors and disabled. My office will continue to help you guys that are seniors and disabled through this process. But hey, look, I know when the party's over. And also, I've been doing this too long as it is. So, our channel will always remain around. And I'll be reporting on the news, but I think that the changes are too severe at this point. I don't think that any of this stuff can really be recovered back to what it was. And as a taxpayer myself, I don't think it was already a convoluted system that didn't work very well. It needed to have and some of these rules need to be imposed. Okay. And you're hearing it from a person that has literally been in this field that supports and assists those that need vouchers. Okay. You're hearing it from my side. And even I disagree with the way this shit's been managed all these years. Okay. Yeah, there needs to be funding, but there's been no accountability. If I were in Trump's shoes, I would dissolve housing authorities altogether. They serve no practical purpose to burn. Did you know that half the federal budget we spend in this nation for housing and vouchers is not actually spent on vouchers? It's spent on lining the golden pockets of housing authorities and the people that hire off of Craigslist, the people that hire the Home Depot parking lot that just got their GED out the bubblegum machine are running there. So when you call and you get some woman with attitude and a snaggled tooth, that's generally what you're dealing with this country. Okay. There are some housing authorities up north and on the East Coast that operate professionally, but there's so many of them. You know how many times I got on the phone to represent a client? I forbade them federal law and they denied the federal law exists. That's a level of ignorance. That's when you didn't even get your certificate out of kindergarten. You're so fucking stupid that you don't even know what federal law is, but you're sitting behind a desk and you're administrating federal programs and you call yourself a housing authority worker. You've not even read your own manuals. I mean, you might as well, I'm not going to say it because then more profanities will happen, but you see where I'm going. Moving back, Buzz video, hearts and patience, you are a trooper, stay safe, strong. Christine Gannon, what happened to veterans? Well, it turns out that veterans are not the top of President Trump's agenda in terms of housing. He feels that the rules to cover disabled and seniors is enough within the veteran system. If you're not a senior and you're not disabled, then you are subject to the same rules of the king and the queen. Okay? I thought for some reason that veterans would be given a pass, but rules are the rules. TruthWorks 101. It's all a clown show. They forget about the people they need to help. Well, that's government. When have you ever known the government to hold a pizza party, prayer circles, or anything? And the government's run by the American people, right? These are your neighbors. These are the people that sit in the church with you, right? They're the ones that work in those government jobs. So anytime I'm going to blame the government, blame your neighbors, your church members, the lady at the drive, okay, we call government like it's some alien species. No, it's the other human beings that live next to you and around you. When you're at the grocery store, could be a government employee, the benefits. So yeah, Chris M. Rolez, just got my housing due to disability. Hope all is well. Good. Maggie Smith, personal story is always the most compelling. I'm wondering if an interview with an interesting Section 8 renter might bump your numbers. Also, a provider might be a good one too. That may be very well true. Trustworks 101. Yes, I like the city play corruption. Look, every city's corrupt, okay? It doesn't matter if you're in a Democratic or Republican state. There's always going to be Sodom and Gomorrah everywhere, okay? A city is made by its people, okay? So every city is good. It's a faction of people that make it bad. A small number of people ruin reputations of whole cities. That's why I never judge cities solely on it being the city. There's lots of people in every good city. But until we take become more proactive about ejecting people out of our communities that create these problems and ruin the good name of a city, then that's that. Just because there's an overwhelming number of Democrats and Republicans running offices in the state doesn't make it a bad state. You guys are you're dividing hairs. A lot of you guys are dividing hairs over politics. We need to look at the human level here. Okay? All right. So Maggie Smith goes on how pets in section as, okay, I didn't even understand what that meant. Thank you for the blessings. Seniors and disabled should be okay regarding their vouchers. Yes, I believe so. TrustWorks, help our vets and a lot of vets. Well, there's help out there, okay? But it's going to have to fit in within the federal rules and guidelines that are issued by the current administration and Congress. Mr. and Mrs. Richardson, retired 58, housing voucher in New York. Veterans, any danger? No, I mean, again, when this, let's be clear as I end this video. I'm really going to end it this time. As much as I love to sit here and pop my gums all day, this shutdown, when it ends, we will have the determination of all the new rules, including whether or not there are work requirements, term limits, new funding, defunding, all of it. All that will come clear. The second volley, a big volley of either good or bad, is going to come for 2026 in its budget, okay? So we're fixing to get two big old bombs landed. So I'm waiting. I mean, every day I Google, I get up 7:30, 6:30 in the morning, and I Google shutdown. Is it over? Because I'm looking for the new rules. Okay. So the party's just started. This has just started. This is the warm-up party for the Trump administration. I'm telling you, you guys think you think you're in a depth of hell or it's really good? This is the warm-up party. There's 3 more years of this administration. And every federal agency is being reduced. Okay? This is just the beginning. We haven't done nothing. There's also the refinement period, and then there's always walking out the door bang. Okay? So what I can tell you guys is I monitor everything on a daily basis. This is the first year I've ever done that. For the next 3-4 years, while President Trump is in office, I'm going to monitor the news daily. And I have to try to keep pace with things, but the pace of information being issued is so rapid that I literally have to digest it daily. I'll get it to you guys as quick as I can. Guys, I really enjoyed talking with you for better or worse. I've enjoyed shooting the shit, a little bit of joking, but the reality of it is we face some of the toughest challenges our nation has faced in terms of housing. Okay, that includes everybody, and some of the toughest challenges we faced in programs like Section 8 and subsidies dealing with those that are seniors, veterans, and many others. We'll also face some of the biggest changes in immigration and many other issues. I'm covering as much as I can. I would like to be able to share both sides of the party lines. That's my job. I don't, when clients call my office, I don't go, oh, well, you're we were going to work with you, but you selected your Republican or you selected your Democrat. Therefore, I've instructed all the staff to burn your application and hang up on you. We don't do that, okay? My job is to cover both sides. So I'm literally stuck on a fence until I retire, and then I'll let you know. All right, guys, I've enjoyed it. We'll see you again tomorrow.